not washing my hands of what happened in the past.
You killed a million people in Iraq.
That is a separate...
You killed a million people in Iraq. It's incredible that you have the brass neck to be sitting here now urging another Iraq war.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. Bah. It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we gotta do. You gotta hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. You are the prize in 2025. You are the prize in 2025. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. You see, the merch is finally here. It took a long time for the merch to finally get here, but it's here. If you want it, you can order it right below the video, man. So it's fire too. So, you know, you are the prize, man. Don't forget that. Don't you forget that. All right. But we back with another TikTok conspiracy, man. We got some stuff going on in this video, talking about presidents and all that type of stuff. So bear with me with this one, you know what I'm saying? But if you make it to the end of this one, you're a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments. Also, share this with the last person you text in your phone, man. Don't forget to do that as well. But let's see what we got. Let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it.
Disturbing Facts About US Presidents, Part 3. Bill Clinton's strange relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton allegedly took a total of 4 trips on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, known by the media as the Lolita Express, although flight records published by Gawker in 2015 suggest that he took more than a dozen, and unverified records reported by Fox News claim he flew with Epstein at least 26 times. Clinton has also been pictured receiving a massage from one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers. However, she has been quoted as saying, although the image looks bizarre, President Clinton was a perfect gentleman during the trip. Jeffrey Epstein was famously known for having this painting of Clinton by Australian artist Patrina Ryan Clyde hanging in his house. Clinton, who's been accused of sexual misconduct multiple times and actually compensated one of his accusers to the tune of $850,000, claims to know nothing about Epstein's terrible crimes and denies any involvement.
Do your own research. Let's go.
Do you think it's possible that Epstein was killed?
Oh, sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't really believe. I think he probably committed suicide. He had a life with, you know, beautiful homes and beautiful everything, and he all of a sudden he's incarcerated and not doing very well. I would say that he did, but there are those people. There are many people. I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he was killed. He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear. But yeah, the closer you look into it, I mean, the Attorney General of the United States, your Attorney General, clearly lied about the Epstein death.
Yeah, he was.
Why?
He was certainly. It wasn't well done. They had no cameras. They had no anything. Everybody was sleeping, and you know, a case could be made. Look, I'm not going to get involved in it, but I can tell you, a case could be made either way.
A case could be made.
You're working at CIA during the Trump election. What was the view of that within the CIA? What do people think of Trump at CIA?
Well, what I found interesting was every government building usually has the picture of the president, the vice president. In this particular case, I don't know how many months it took them to eventually put the picture of the president and the vice president up on the wall, as if they didn't even want to recognize him as the president or the vice president. I mean, it got so bad in one of my offices that one of the leaders actually spoke out and said, look, we have to respect the chain of command. If you find yourself mentally distressed because Trump won the presidency, go seek some psychological help.
Wow, people was going to get help when he got elected.
Did you ever ask for information? They said, we can't tell you.
No, but I will tell you that there were times where I asked for information and that it came slower than I wanted. Prying information out of the bowels of an agency can be challenging.
UFOs? Any UFOs? Did you ask about that?
Certainly asked about it.
And?
Can't tell you.
Sorry. Okay.
Can
UFOs.
I say it used to be that UFOs was the, and what is it, Roswell was the biggest conspiracy?
Yeah.
And now that seems so tame, right?
Right.
The idea that the government might have an alien spaceship.
I can't tell you.
Biden just reclassified the Kennedy documents 60 years after his assassination. No one even peripherally involved is still alive. So what could possibly be the sources and methods that were supposedly showing the world by declassifying these are so outdated they're irrelevant. They were using disappearing ink in 1963. Why in the world would we be continuing to hide the truth about the Kennedy assassination 60 years later? And of course the answer is obvious, because it implicates not individuals but institutions, and reveals them as complicit in a murder and in the overthrow of the U.S. government. And the U.S. government is complicit in the overthrow of the U.S. government.
Wow.
And that's the truth. I know that for a fact, because I interviewed someone who saw the document. And so, we have a long way. Look, the bottom line is, unless there is a compelling reason that relates to imminent physical security of citizens, we should never hide the truth from the population in a democracy, period. Because that is incompatible with democracy. Secrecy is incompatible with democracy. How can I'm running the government, but you can't tell me what the government's doing? That's not democracy. It's something else. And don't insult me by calling it a democracy, because it's very much not. And so, yes, there's much that remains secret. I'm not going to speculate. You don't need to be conspiracy nut. In the United States, we have over 1 billion federal documents that remain classified. 1 billion.
Whoa.
Going back to the Second World War.
Whoa.
That's a democracy? That is not a democracy.
1 billion? Whoa, that's a hell of a lot.
And in that interview, he implied he knew something about the Roswell crash. And he did.
Before you leave office, will you let us know if there's aliens? Because this is the only thing I really want to know. I want to know what's going on. Would you ever open up Roswell and let us know what's really going on there?
So many people ask me that question.
I know, it sounds almost ridiculous, but it's actually the real question I want to know.
It sounds like a cute question, but it's actually, there are millions and millions of people that want to go there, that want to see it. I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting. But Roswell's a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what's going on.
So you're saying you may declassify? Oh. You'll take it?
Well, I'll have to think about that one, right?
He's been briefed into Roswell. I know Trump's been briefed. And the interesting thing is, I've been waiting to see, as Trump comes under increasing pressure in this national security crisis where he's allegedly stolen documents that he ought not properly to have retained.
Whoa.
I've been waiting to see whether in anger or in frustration he would reveal what he knows about the phenomenon.
And I'm watching the news now, they're declaring the end of the Trump era. Now, okay, I can see how in New York you might believe this is the end of his era. I'm just being honest with you. I live in Ohio amongst the poor whites. A lot of you don't understand why Trump was so popular, but I get it because I hear it every day. He's very loved. And the reason he's loved is because people in Ohio have never seen somebody like him. He's what I call an honest liar. No, I'm not joking right now. He's an honest liar. That first debate, I'd never seen anything like it. I've never seen a white male billionaire screaming at the top of his lungs, "This whole system is rigged," he said. And across the stage was a white woman, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, sitting over there looking at him like, "No, it's not." I said, "Now, wait a minute, bro. It's what he said." And the moderator said, "Well, Mr. Trump, if in fact the system is rigged, as you suggest, what would be your evidence?" Remember what he said, bro? He said, "I know the system is rigged because I use it." I said, "God damn."
Wow.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Epstein, in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it.
Whoa.
The island was an absolute cesspool. So,
the Clintons are friends
and he's
of
been
yours,
there
right?
for many times.
The Clintons are friends.
Well, I can't say friends, but I know
You're friendly. You know them.
They play at my clubs a lot. I have clubs, and everybody likes to play at my clubs.
Are you saying there's a political problem for her if she runs for president?
It could be a political problem. Look, he could be a political problem. Right now, he's Teflon, and right now, maybe not. But he could end up being a political.
Trump is a wild boy.
There is only one Democrat in the United States who can beat Donald Trump. Only one. Nobody else stands a chance.
Who is better for America, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Neither. They are both bad for America in different ways.
Who is more likely to prolong American dominance?
Donald Trump, of the two. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I had this thought last night. There is only one Democrat in the United States who can beat Donald Trump. Only one. Nobody else stands a chance. Democratic Party is struggling to accept that. Nobody can beat Donald Trump. There's only one. that can win, and that's Michelle Obama.
I did think this, because, I mean, I would say Barack, but obviously he can't because he's done his 8 years. But Michelle, I do agree, and she doesn't want anything to do with it.
That she said in early July, she wanted nothing to do with it. But what's happened since early July? There's been the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The assassination attempt turned into this incredible media frenzy. Now you have this guy with blood on his face and a fist in the air and a flag behind him. You have a Pulitzer Prize winning photo already floating around the internet with this guy on it, right? Everything changed. There's no way Michelle Obama isn't sitting in her room multiple times a day, asking herself the question, do I still want nothing to do with this? Or do I have to step up to the plate to do what I believe is the right thing to do because only I can do it? Think about the questions Barack Obama must ask Michelle Obama. Think about the silence, the pregnant silence around their kitchen table at night. Think about how heavy they must be thinking right now. Because they know what I just said out loud, that you knew yesterday. There's only one Democrat that can beat Donald Trump. And maybe in July 3rd, she said she wanted nothing to do with it, but now it's July 20th. And if she really believes in this country, how is she not going to rise to the occasion? How is she going to sit back and let the future of her daughters rest in the hands of somebody she doesn't believe in? Because the truth is, if she were to run overnight, she would have the complete support of the entire Democratic National Convention. Every donor who has already donated money would let their money stay with her and probably donate more. Women voters, African-American voters, voters that are on the fence, voters that are looking for any alternative to Donald Trump or Joe Biden, they would all get their answers given to them at once. Not to mention the fact that she's brilliant, she's esteemed, she's youthful. Everything that America stands for is represented in Michelle Obama just as much as what we say America stands for is represented by Donald Trump.
Well, we see how that went. She ain't do shit.
They called Obama the deporter in chief. He deported more people than Trump ever did, but he followed the law to do it.
Yeah.
As long as you follow the law, that's great. But when Donald goes around saying, we're just going to kick him out, right?
We are going to start the largest mass deportation in the history of our country because we have no choice.
I'm going to, do whatever.
Right, that just sounds like more, it sounds like a boast and not like
More
what is the
gangster.
actual practice.
Right, more gangster, right.
But the fact that people have come in lawlessly, it feels like...
Biden up. No one's saying he didn't.
Yeah.
Right, he let too many people in. That could have been the Bernie Sanders side of him, right? I'm not saying, he did the right thing.
Yeah.
Right, but you are where you are, right? So the only question is, how do you fix it?
Right.
You, of course, are most famous for recounting in public your experience as assault, and I think it was assault by then Senator Joe Biden. And unlike a lot of people who make these claims, you have contemporaneous evidence in your mother's call to Larry King Live, which came out years later. It's an amazing story, and I think it's a credible story. But what did you do wrong? How did you wind up the subject of a sealed potential indictment of a criminal investigation by the US government? What was your crime?
I think not shutting up. I think because I just wouldn't stop talking. I kept trying to push for an investigation. All they did was pay money to have media hit pieces done on me.
You worked for the sitting president, who you say sexually assaulted you.
Yeah.
You're upset about the state of our economy.
Yeah.
How does that make you a traitor?
Apparently it does. And apparently my views about the proxy war against Russia via Ukraine. And in 2019, I had said, and this is true, that if Joe Biden was elected, that he would go to war with Russia.
You were right.
Yeah.
You speak out, boy. They're gonna hush you.
Biden is the worst president.
No, second worst. In modern history, that's what I said. Second
in modern
worst.
history, who's the worst?
W, with no question.
I see, because of the horrible wars, probably.
I mean, Iraq is just so bad.
It's just
like
a mess, yeah.
One of my favorite authors is a guy, Gene Edward Smith. He's written a bunch of presidential biographies. And in the opening of his W biography, he's like, there's just no question. There's a single worst foreign policy mistake in all of American history. And W is one of our worst presidents ever. He had terrible judgment and got us into a war of his own choosing. It was a disaster. And it set us up for failure. By the way, we talked a lot about Donald Trump. Nobody is more responsible for the rise of Donald Trump than George W. Bush. But I could go off on Bush for a long time.
Oh, we will. We will return there. So as part of the pushback, I'd like to say, because I agree with your criticism of arrogance and narcissism against Joe Biden. The same could be said about Donald Trump.
You're absolutely
of
right.
arrogance. So, and I think you've also articulated that a lot of presidents throughout American history have suffered from a bad case of arrogance and narcissism.
Absolutely, but sometimes for a benefit. You know, you have to be a pretty crazy person to be to want to be president. I had put out a tweet that got some controversy, and I think it was Joe Rogan, who I love, but he was like, I want to find out who Kamala Harris is as a human being. Yeah. And I was like, I'm actually not interested in who politicians are as human beings at all. I was like, I've read too much about them to know. I know who you are.
Okay.
You know, there's a theory that this is all Gwen Stefani's fault. So Donald Trump was hosting The Apprentice, and Gwen Stefani was on America's Got Talent, one of those big singer shows. He found out she was getting paid more than him. And so he wanted to build his relevance, right? So he decided, well, I know, I'll run for president. I'll become incredibly relevant for like 3 months. He's a contender, he's whatever. And then you drop out of the race, no problem at all. So he hires all those people in Trump Plaza and he comes down the gold escalator and he does the speech and great, okay, nothing. He then goes, and there's footage of this, he then goes and does the first Make America Great Again rally. And they've got footage of him walking up the steps and he sees like 10,000 people all chanting. And there's the realization, oh, this could be real.
Just like that, it was just that simple.
Back in 1987, Ronald Reagan, president of the United States then, went before the UN and said, if an alien force came at us, we would have to become one. All of our differences would fade.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
1987.
Who were really the powerful people? Was it the director of CIA? Was it FBI? Was it the big pharma? Was it military-industrial complex guys that are General Dynamics? Who were the people like, oh, I got you. You have, I never thought you had power. Who actually has
the
power?
most powerful person by far? The president. Power over everybody. Power. The power is enormous.
Most people don't believe that.
It is. There is a sort of a deep state. And a lot of that's people that have been there. And then there's some bad guys, there's some bad people. Then there's a radical left, which I think are more dangerous in many ways than the other countries. I really do. You know, guys like Shifty Adam Schiff and other people, they're bad people. They're sort of sick people, not stupid people either, by the way. Smart people.
Sure.
But they're vicious, but they're very bad for our country.
Is Adam Schiff powerful?
Can you imagine? Well, he made up the Russia hoax.
No,
he and Hillary.
What I'm saying is, who is their boss? Who calls them and say, you better or else?
I think it's an amorphous group. It's a group. It's not one person. It's an amorphous group of lunatics. And when they come together, they're pretty bad. But let me just say this. The president has the absolute, if the president is, now Biden doesn't know he's alive, so I don't think I really believe they used him as a vessel, like a vessel in the night.
Yo, Trump be saying...
You don't think we'll see a list?
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat, Joe. You want to check the tweet that Elon just put out?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
I've been told that there's no way if you're on watch you can kill yourself in that prison.
Could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
The video was not conclusive. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing.
The American people really have to get vociferous and correct their government and not allow their government to cover up Epstein.
I mean,
standard practice.
How
business
come
as
nobody
usual.
has gone to prison? That's one of my main questions for Trump and the administration.
It's a good question. Well,
what's going on?
Well, the administration's only 100 days old, right? Or 130 or whatever the fuck it is. It's like, I think it takes a while to even find out what the fuck happened. I don't know. You know, I've had conversations with people about it, and it's like, Jesus, like just trying to get the documents, like when they're trying to get the Epstein files, like the state of New York, one of the district attorneys was hiding documents. They'd have forced him to give documents. I think there's so many fucking powerful people that are on those lists. There's so many powerful people that went and partied. Air quotes, partied.
Yeah. Yeah.
MAGA, or at least a huge chunk of them, they're turning on Donald Trump right now, right? You know, some of this, it's stemming from Trump's DOJ saying, hey, the Epstein files, there's no client list, right? Despite what in the past Donald Trump has said, Pam Bondi has said, Kash Patel has said, Dan Bongino has said. Now, in a recent post, Trump said, hey, the Epstein files, they were actually designed by Obama, Hillary, and Biden to attack him. Right? And that, despite Trump ran on releasing the files, and he said that the files were real in February, but then last week his DOJ said that they aren't real. And in fact, now Trump says they're actually a big Democrat conspiracy against him. But again, just talking about the facts, President Trump was famously friends with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, look at the photos of all of them together. And earlier this year, he had the guy that was one of his biggest allies ever, Elon Musk, saying Trump's on the list. In 2002, Trump told New York Magazine, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. With Trump's own biographer saying that in his first term, he considered pardoning Epstein's girlfriend so that she wouldn't speak of who and what she saw. He even said of Ghislaine Maxwell, who he was photographed with, and who was found guilty in trafficking and other offenses in connection to Jeffrey Epstein, that he wished her well. She's sentenced to 20 years in prison. And now with this latest post, I mean, if you go into the replies on Truth Social, MAGA is not happy, saying, why are you gaslighting us? But one of the biggest questions is, will that reaction grow, or will Trump be able to snuff it out? Though I will say, going through it, I haven't seen MAGA defect like this on Trump before. Follow to stay in the loop.
Yeah, it's just gonna go away like it already has.
And then George W. Bush gets elected president. And 9/11 happens. And as soon as 9/11 happens, Bush says, we got to invade Iraq. It's their fault. 9/11's their fault. We're like, no, they had like literally nothing to do with 9/11. Well, we're going to invade them anyway. Okay, well, we think this is a mistake, but battle lines drawn, as I said earlier.
Was there no conversations, like real conversations with?
The only conversations were between Cheney, Condi Rice, and Rumsfeld. But mostly Cheney's deputies, Scooter Libby and Addington and, you know, all those guys. Zal Khalilzad.
No one in the CIA could get in Bush's ear and be like, look.
We were absolutely preoccupied with Al-Qaeda.
Got it. Okay.
Everybody in the building's working on Al-Qaeda.
Okay.
And then Bush calls one day and says, oh, by the way, come up with an invasion plan because we're going to invade Iraq and overthrow Saddam Hussein. We're like, what? What are you talking about? But that was it. That was the order. So we decide to invade Iraq, and the CIA says, let's say we do invade Iraq and we overthrow Saddam Hussein. Then what? And Dick Cheney says, we're going to put this fella, Ahmed Chalabi, he's going to be the president. And we said, whoa, no, we are not.
Cheney said that.
Yeah, we have a burn notice on Cheney. I mean on Chalabi, and on everybody associated with Chalabi. We're not working with Chalabi. And then the CIA reissued the burn notice saying, listen, this is from 10 years ago, but just remember, we don't deal with this guy. So what Cheney did is he ordered the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence to secretly reopen a channel with Chalabi. And he specifically told him, don't tell the CIA.
Wow.
I remember, you know, part of my job, or 90% of my job at the time, was reading 10, 15,000 cables a day.
Wow.
20,000 that were coming in to brief the director. I'd boil that 10 or 20,000 cables down to a half a dozen of the most important issues to brief the director in the morning. And then we started getting these cables. Like, the weapons of mass destruction are located at these geo-coordinates. I'm like, holy shit, Who found this? Super secret, double secret probation kind of special source that nobody can know about.
I've known Biden, watched Biden, been around Biden a lot for over 30 years. I remember my reaction in 2019 when he decided to run once again for president for the fourth time, I think. I thought, that's not the guy I know. I mean, he's just completely different. And then his sister told a friend of mine, actually, we're very upset because he's in cognitive decline. He's got some neurological illness and we don't want him to run for president. So I immediately said that on Fox News.
So you reported that at the time?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I showed the tape, like, look at this guy, and was attacked, of course, and ignored. So that was 5 years ago. I wasn't shocked by his performance at the debate, but then other journalists were. They seemed to be. Were they pretending or like what? I don't understand how someone who did an interview with him like 2 years ago wouldn't have been aware that there was something wrong.
Well, I think it's an opportunity to provide this broader data set so there can be this independent review by the public.
What would that data look like?
Well, let's look at what the transcripts show. Do they show someone who is, very consistent, very focused, very deliberate in their answering of questions, or does it show someone who's maybe struggling to stay on track or is lacking
Do we have
focus?
the
Well, media outlets who've conducted interviews with the president should have those transcripts. You could release the transcript, and I say that as someone who released a transcript of my interview with President Trump back in 2020.
They ain't releasing that shit.
Make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Raise your hand if it matters a lot to you. Raise your hand. So every hand of 7,000 people.
Everybody cares.
A lot. I said a lot. Every hand.
The myth of Epstein is one that has been created largely on the MAGA right. Not to say that there aren't some on the left who have had interest in it as well. But we have, as you guys just played at the top of the hour, for years, not less Trump himself, but certainly people around Trump have been talking about this list and that it was going to implicate powerful people, powerful institutions, largely on the left, the Clintons, perhaps the Obamas, others, and they would all go down for it. And now we have seen, since President Trump took office again, a backing away from that. There was a statement a month back or so from the FBI, you mentioned it, and now from the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, this past week, saying, well, there's no list. Even though we have heard from her earlier this term, there was a list. We've heard from Kash Patel. We've heard from Don Bongino. There was a list. They have the access to it. They'd release it. There was that much ballyhooed stunt earlier this year where they gave a bunch of MAGA influencers some Epstein documents, and that turned out to be sort of a bust, all just publicly available material. And that kicked up some backlash on the right. And now a real fury here in the last few days. And this is what's interesting about this. Do we know what the actual Epstein list is? Or even if there is a list? No, we do not. But what we do know is this is a rare moment, a very rare moment, where there is a real fracture in the president's base. And some of his most ardent supporters, we just played some of them at the Turning Point conference, but there are other social media influencers like Benny Johnson and the like who took to Twitter X over the weekend, really trashing President Trump, which we never see before, accusing him of hiding things, accusing him of not being honest about this list. And Trump's efforts to try to quell this storm, his Truth Social post, nearly 1,000 words over the weekend, did exactly the opposite. I mean, Truth Social, let's remember, this is a Donald Trump created and owned platform. This is the first time I've ever seen him be ratioed, meaning he got more comments, in this case, almost overwhelmingly negative comments, than he got likes and approval, stamps of approval for that post. There's real anger here. And as you noted, Joe, his post had so many, suggesting that there was no list, but yet it was written by the Democrats. He was talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I'm told, back to you guys here, there's some real panic in the White House right now. A lot of people have gone quiet. A lot of people have gone dark, but they recognize, those that are talking, recognize right now, this is a problem. It's a first time they've had a problem like this, and they don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Man, look, that ain't coming out.
Donald Trump's great-grandfather, he was part of the FBI team that confiscated and took all of Nikola Tesla's inventions, blueprints, and wiped his whole house.
What the hell? No.
Now, Nikola Tesla, obviously there was rumors all the time about he was onto some next technology with frequency and maybe even time travel.
So how would he know this?
So what? And this book was written in 1869. But what's crazy, there's another man.
Of course.
Not washing my hands of what happened in the past.
You killed a million people in Iraq.
That is a separate...
You killed a million people in Iraq. It's incredible that you have the brass neck to be sitting here now urging another Iraq war.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. I want to tell you, they lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none.
You sent me to Iraq. You sent me to Iraq in 2003. You lied. You lied about WMP. A million Iraqis are dead because you lied. My friends are dead because you lied.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I firmly believed that Donald did not want to run for president. I don't think it was serious. I don't think he wanted to be the president. I knew him. He had a great life at Mar-a-Lago. He was running around town. He played golf. He had a good time. And I remember, and I say this, the first time he said, I might run for president, he put out his first book. And I know some of the people involved in this, and they said, pretend like you're running for president and you'll sell a lot of books. And he did it and it worked. Second book he put out, it was again, like 4 years later, he said, I might run for president. And again, he said, oh, I'm selling books and it helps sell books.
Yeah.
So what happened this time? He's on The Apprentice, the ratings were going down, and NBC was balking at giving him a raise. So what did he say? I'll run for president, I'll get a lot of press. And I really believe that this was a gimmick to get NBC to raise up his salary and to keep The Apprentice on.
Well...
And I would bet the farm on that.
That's the second time we heard that in this video.
Elon Musk just exposed Donald Trump for being in the Epstein files, which is interesting because most of us already knew this. It says, mark this post for the future, the truth will come out. Elon Musk is now dropping videos connecting Trump to Epstein and is now calling Trump's recession stupid, saying it's going to cause a recession in the second half of the year. He's saying to everybody, no, this is the president versus Elon, and I will win. This wasn't unprovoked. Trump came for Elon, so they must have had an argument over the phone. The best way to save money is to terminate Elon's subsidies and contract. And then compared Elon to Biden. And now both of the professional narcissists are having a lie battle. Trump said Elon already knew what was in the bill and that we were cutting EV mandates. Elon said this bill was never shown to me. He then shares this picture. Money Doge is saved. Trump's big, beautiful bill. I dropped a video about how they were beefing, but nobody seemed to believe it yet. Because here's the thing about narcissists. While they can be friends for a little bit, I knew eventually it would detonate. Because two narcissists cannot survive together long term. There will be a power struggle when they run out of people to exert their power on. Two people with a history of screwing people over are eventually going to screw each other over. I want you all to understand one thing. He is only upset because his EV mandate is getting cut in this bill. And if that didn't happen, he wouldn't be saying anything. He is loyal to nobody, but this is entertaining.
They're all related, which is very weird. If you you go back far enough, they're all related. Like if you study Obama and Bush, right? You know, because I remember when Obama was running, I was like, oh, change. It's going to be change. Hope and change. Hope and change. And then you start studying like the Bushes and the Obamas, and their first ancestor, their common ancestor, is a Hinckley dude. Right? And you go... Like John Hinckley, the guy who tried to kill 100%. What? Yes, their common ancestor is a Hinckley. And then when you realize that... Hinckley was related to Obama and Bush? And related to the Bushes had dinner with the Hincleys the night before Reagan got shot. And here's the craziest thing. What? Yeah. Is that crazy? Do you think... Okay, I always thought Hinckley was a lone nut that was infatuated with Jodie Foster. What? So... No, dude. And there's actually interviews, dude, where he said, Uncle George told me to do it. Oh, Jesus. Barack Obama, the 10th cousin once removed of George W. Bush through Samuel Hinckley of Cape Cod. Holy shit. I've never gone down the Hinckley rabbit hole. So John Hinckley, the guy who killed or shot rather Reagan.
Wow.
What was his deal? Was he
was like
MK Ultra?
Yeah, he was a little off. He was like the one family member that was a little off. Here's the craziest thing about that thing.
Whoa.
Did you know that there was a plot by American businessmen to overthrow Franklin Delano Roosevelt and replace his government with a fascist dictatorship so that he couldn't pass the New Deal and other pro-worker reforms? That's right, J.P. Morgan Jr. and some of his wealthy buddies wanted General Smedley Butler to march on Washington with an army of 500,000 American veterans. General Butler was extremely popular with people at the time, and the businessmen felt that they could control him and use him to lead a fascist dictatorship. When rumors of the business plot began circulating, the New York Times rushed to the defense of the rich and powerful, claiming that there was no evidence for it. But Smedley Butler, who had taken a hard anti-capitalist turn after spending 30 years in government, testified before the House on Un-American committees and blew the whole thing up, exposing that some of the most powerful men in America were propositioning him to lead a fascist coup. And funny enough, George Bush's grandfather, Prescott Bush, also wanted the coup to be carried out, but he couldn't be directly involved because he was too closely involved with Hitler's fascist party in Germany, whose rise to power he had helped finance. So it's very interesting that American businessmen would rather install a fascist dictatorship than allow workers to have any kind of reforms. Capitalism.
Man, this stuff here.
I just cannot believe this guy Biden. He's a criminal. You know, his very first act, the very first day, was to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline. And I'm in the oil business also. And I don't own no stocks. I don't like paper. I like tangibles. So the day he took the pipeline, he canceled it, and some executive, this is his first day, his first move. I knew what he was up to immediately. So, because my business is oil, and I went to school for oil. I drove tankers for Standard Oil. And so I understand the oil business, and, you know, oil is the lifeblood of civilization. So the moment he cut that pipeline, I'm selling oil at $30 a barrel. The next day was $130 a barrel.
Wow.
So the good news is I'm getting extremely rich, but he's crushing the middle class. And by crushing the middle class, we come to a two-class society, rich and poor. And that's the basis of revolution.
With the recent release of Pentagon footage of unidentified aerial phenomena, and things like Project Blue Book and ATIP and all of these various things, in your former position and currently with the current information that's released, what's your viewpoint on what these objects that seem to defy all laws of physics are?
That's a legitimate question now. And the short answer, but not the most meaningful one, is I don't know about this. But when I was president and I had a chief of staff, John Podesta, who loved science fiction, we made every attempt to find out everything about Roswell. And we also sent people to Area 51 to make sure there were no aliens in a deep, because Area 51 is very important.
Who do you send to Area 51?
Oh, if I told you that. No, actually, I sent my Sandy Berger, who passed away sadly a couple of years ago, who was my national security advisor, but I said, we got to find out how we're going to deal with this, because that's where we do a lot of our invisibility research in terms of technology. Like, how do we fly airplanes that aren't picked up by radar and all that? So that's why they're so secretive. But there's no aliens, as I know. On the other hand, Hillary and I went to Hawaii in 2018 to the Big Island, where all the telescopes are on top of the mountain, you know, including the Keck telescope, the largest in the world. And several countries have scientific teams there. So after we toured the telescope, we went down and met with them. And I said, do you guys argue about the likelihood of life in outer space? He said, we have huge arguments. I said, you do? He said, oh, huge. I said, what's the range? He said, there are those of us who think it's 85% likely, and those of us who think it's 95%. He said, these are people who spend their lives doing this. He said, that we think, in other words, it's very unlikely that there is not life. There are a billion, not a billion planets, a billion solar-like systems. There are lots of mysteries out there, which is why I think we should take good care of this planet. I think we ought to kind of hang on to it if we can. And, and I think, but I also think it should keep us humble. There's a lot of stuff we don't know.
There's a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York Post.
Yeah, we have that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. I mean, basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. There was we thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise.
A little bit less.
It definitely.
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But I mean, basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue. So depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much. But we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, if they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
When something like that turns out to be real, is there regret for not having it evenly distributed and for throttling the distribution of that story?
What do you mean evenly distributed?
I mean evenly in that it's not suppressed. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because it turned out after the fact. The fact checkers looked into it. No one was able to say it was false, right? So basically, it had this period where it was getting less distribution. So yeah. I mean, but I think I think it sucks though. I think in the same way that probably having to go through like a criminal trial but being proven innocent in the end sucks. Like, it still sucks to have like that you had to go through a criminal.
He was kind of all over the place on that one.
So JFK, the theory that Kennedy was accidentally shot by a hungover Secret Service agent.
Definitely.
That's my favorite theory.
Personally, what I think happened is that JFK was killed in the world's most infamous workplace accident. When they got to Dallas the night before, all of the Secret Service agents, the more experienced Secret Service agents, went out to a strip club and stayed there until like 5 a.m. So the next day, when it was time for the motorcade, they gave the most inexperienced agent a top spot right up next to JFK. When they came around Dealey Plaza and Lee Harvey Oswald took the first shot, the Secret Service agent behind him got scared. He up, pulled the trigger, and shot JFK in the back of the head. And it was actually the Secret Service agent who accidentally killed JFK. JFK would have survived the assassination with just a wound had it not been for the Secret Service agent. And
blew off the top of his head.
Yeah, that's why there was so much intrigue around his autopsy, why we didn't really ever get like a full report on that.
Well, the conspiracy theory then begins at the mortuary. Like, it begins after they're doing the medical examination.
The cover-up begins immediately.
Yes, because they lost the brain. Well, quote-unquote, lost the brain. brain unless they did it on purpose.
You don't lose the president's brain.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
We don't know where Einstein's brain is.
I saw a slice of it at the Mutter Museum.
No, dude. You know what that turned out to be? It's ham. Sorry, buddy. That's straight up Virginia ham.
It's the shitty ham, too. It's the processed ham.
That gross shit.
He said the process ham.
Biden shakes hands with people that aren't even there when he gets off stage. I think he's seeing ghosts. You see him on Jimmy Kimmel the other day? Well, he was just rambling.
Turn on the TV. Look at the ads. When's the last time you saw biracial couples on TV? When's the last time you saw the way, people are selling products. They do ads to sell products. And they sell products when they appeal to people.
If he was anyone else, if he was a Republican, if that was Donald Trump doing that, every fucking talk show would be screaming for him to be off the air. And by the way, I'm not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form. I've had the opportunity to have him on my show more than once. I've said no every time. I don't want to help him. I'm not interested in helping him.
Didn't he end up doing
Joe Biden has flipped on his decision to pardon his son from the tax and gun crimes that he has committed. Interestingly enough, he didn't just pardon him for those crimes. He pardoned him for a 10-year period for any crime that he may or may not have committed between 2014 and 2024. The reason the things that were found on Hunter Biden's laptop were censored prior to the election are not because of crack addictions. They are not because of tax evasion. It was because what is on that laptop could potentially incriminate Joe Biden himself. Now, from 2014, a few interesting things happened. We're not going to touch on the fact that the US-backed rebels overthrew a democratically elected sitting president of the Ukraine and installed their own Western-friendly leader. And we're not going to touch on the fact that there is a money trail linking the Biden family to Russian oligarchs, to Chinese interests, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and more. We don't need to touch on that. We're just going to talk about one little moment in 2014 when Hunter Biden was approached by energy company Burisma in the Ukraine to be on the board of directors with no expertise. The owner of Burisma, Mykola Zlochevsky, has actually been charged with attempting to bribe Ukrainian officials from looking into his company. When this failed, Hunter Biden on the board of directors made a call to DC, and Joe Biden has publicly bragged about withholding funds from the Ukraine if they didn't fire a prosecutor.
Look, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Now, interestingly enough, that prosecutor was charged with investigating Burisma. That is what should enrage people, the fact that the then sitting vice president leveraged his own power to influence foreign policy to benefit his son's corporate interest. That fact alone is why, in my opinion, the Hunter Biden laptop was so heavily suppressed prior to the election.
A YouTube commenter says, if even 3 or 4 US presidents are related, something is wrong. I agree. While as a genealogist, I know that networks of millions of documented cousins emerge wherever records are well kept, making 25 royal descended presidents, and this graph of 30 presidents post-medieval cousinships, expected results given their context. That context is itself undemocratic. Dense records are strongly correlated with proximity to the imperial core, and the higher social rank of those the system serves. In other words, documentable presidential relatedness results from the ordinary maldistribution of social capital along lines of kinship, real and fictive, in hierarchies of power where that social capital is the currency. It's not just that the records of the ancestors of the powerful get more thoroughly researched, although that's a factor in publicity. Recorded medieval ancestry, by its nature, accrues only to people who have at least one line continually considered important enough to be recorded since medieval times, and does not occur for people whose every brick wall is mortared with feudal and colonial violence. It's not a bloodline conspiracy. It's race and class. Gary Boyd Roberts, whose work these compiled presidential genealogies are, describes the phenomenon as only seemingly undemocratic. But it's only seemingly if you've already accepted as democratic that there's a single head of state for 1/3 of a billion people, that the holders of that office will collectively have a supermajority of British ancestry, and more of that than normal through the gentry lines that connect to medieval royalty, that even presidents unconnected by documents will so effectively embody the characteristics of the group that no one would be surprised if they were connected by documents, and that it's natural that people will knowingly vote for a son, second cousin, grandson, same surname patrilineal cousin, nephew by marriage, brother or wife of a previous president out of 0.5 to 250 million other people eligible to run. That's not conspiracy. It's gentrifiability with a twist of holdover love for dynasties. That's why Matt Baker of Useful Charts is wrong in this claim, which I'll stitch in part 2.
What if the president dies in the strike and before we've made a counterattack?
Which is something that Stratcom thinks about, and it's certainly why I have that in the scenario. Because if the president is the only one that can order a counterattack, that can launch nuclear weapons, what if he dies? And so I learned in the reporting that if you're the president, let's say he even gives the order, okay, here's my counterstrike, I'm choosing this from the black book. The command and control is set up that if the president orders 82 nuclear weapons in response, you can't launch 83 nuclear weapons. It's 82 and 82 only. And then to do another launch requires passwords. It requires so much bureaucracy. There's not time for that. And so there's this almost unknown little detail inside of the nuclear command and control apparatus called a universal unlock code, which I learned about in the book. And the eyebrow goes up for exactly that reason, as did mine when wait, what? And then you find out that the president can release to the Stratcom commander the universal unlock code, which basically says, okay, if I die, you have permission to launch nuclear weapon number 83 or nuclear weapon number 5,000, all the way up. And that is a pretty shocking concept.
I think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. I don't think that you should have anybody, especially in the United States, you can't have a leader of a country who said we should suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. I mean, he led an attempted coup of this country. Like, we watched it. We saw it, Yeah, I just don't think a person like that should be president of the United States of America. I think that if you're facing, the type of criminal charges that he's facing, what is it, 86 counts or something like that now? 86 counts, 88 counts? I can't remember the exact number. But if I was facing 88 counts of any criminal charge, I wouldn't be able to work at Walmart. Nonetheless, run to be president of the United States of America. So I just don't think that he's not somebody that should be in that position. But I understand why he is in that position, because he's good at messaging.
Imagine if I had done any of this. Let me just, I just want to be clear about this. Imagine that Imagine if I had pulled Fox News' credentials from the White House press corps. You're laughing, but no, this is what's happening. Imagine if I'd said to law firms that were representing parties that were upset with policies my administration had initiated, that you will not be allowed into government buildings. We will punish you economically for dissenting from the Affordable Care Act or the Iran deal. We will ferret out students who protest against my policies. It's unimaginable that the same parties that are silent now would have tolerated behavior like that from me. or a whole bunch of my predecessors. So, and I say this not on a partisan basis. This has to do with something more precious, which is, who are we as a country and what values do we stand for?
That's real.
I was at the highest of all pedestals, the hottest in the country, the highest point. Everything I touched turned to gold immediately. Everything I did turned to gold, and life started getting boring. And then one day, the pedestal was knocked out from under me.
The 3 Atlantic City casinos, once run by Donald Trump, have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection for the 3rd time.
I used to say to people, someday I'd like to be poor, just for a little while, just to see who's going to remain loyal to me. There were people that I really helped in business when things were very good in the 1980s and when my company was going good. They did not lift a finger to help me when I needed it, and there were a couple of them that could have very easily helped me. Now I have the opportunity to do a number on those people, and I will tell you I'm having a lot of fun with the opportunity.
Dang.
And I think that's the thing that I learned more than anything else, Nancy, was loyalty. Because I'm like this great loyalty freak. I'm loyal to a point of the absurd. I stay with people.
But not Epstein. He wasn't loyal to him.
Are there aliens at Area 51?
You know, I'll tell you, it's a funny thing because I think that might be a question that I get more than any question. It is the craziest thing. So we have that so-called area they consider it like a sacred area. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, I don't think I'm a believer, but I've interviewed pilots that look, I like Tom Cruise, but better than Tom Cruise. The blonde crew cuts, the whole, and this, yes, sir. And they were in the Oval Office, 3 or 4 pilots. These are not people that make up stories. These are, they said, all I know, sir, is there was a round object that was going 4 times faster than my F-22, which is a very fast plane. And it wasn't, you know, it shouldn't have been. It was round, sir. They have seen, I mean, 4 or 5 guys I've interviewed, solid people, great pilots for the U.S. Air Force, etc. They've seen things that they cannot explain.
Follow-up
so
question.
Also,
All right, guys, that was another TikTok compilation, man. That was covering some of the presidents, conspiracy theories, Area 51, and a lot of other stuff in there. You know what I'm saying? Assassination attempts, CIA stuff. You made it this far, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments. Make sure you share this with the last person you texted your phone. Make sure you do that. I also got a TikTok playlist. If you into that stuff, you can binge watch. Also, the merch is here and it's crispy. You are the prize, man. This is some crispy This is probably the best design so far. I really like this. But till next time, man, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.